of the HBA of Greater Cincinnati. We are more than 400 members strong, and we represent the best of the best in the residential construction industry. We're excited to be kicking off some new programming today, specifically aimed to the real estate and realtor community. We have some future events planned for you as well, which I will talk about at the end, and look forward to sharing those with you. So let's start with a big thank you for our sponsors for today's function, Plains Moving and Storage and Euler Hines. So first I'm going to introduce Nick Meyer from Plains. Nick, would you like to say a few words?
Some of you might know us. We're the local United Landline agents in town. We specialize in local and long distance moving. If you can help anyone, please don't hesitate to call. And I'm always available to let you do anything for your life. Thanks for hosting. You have a beautiful facility.
Thank you.
And Mike, do you want to do a welcome?
Sure. Mike Hines, Euler Hines. Got a few of my colleagues and friends over here from our team as well. So if you guys want to raise your hand to say hello real quick. They didn't have to commute too far. Come over here. So we appreciate you guys coming in. Appreciate the HBA for doing this. This is kind of our event space, the Remington Room, and our offices are back over here. So apologize if you see people come in and get food and all that kind of stuff. We're just going to make this place our own.
And the restrooms are right over there?
Restrooms right over to the left. Also, we ran out, I think, of bottles of water. So if anybody is thirsty, they can grab a cup from up there and just go into the bathrooms. Well, not into the bathrooms, sorry. Towards the bathrooms. Don't do that. Take a left, and then in our office space back here, there's a little water filler. So help yourselves.
So as we all know, new construction is a completely different experience from resale. And the agents who understand this difference create stronger partnerships and smoother transactions that will ultimately create more opportunities for them. Today, we're going to talk honestly about what builders and developers actually want from their realtor partners and how agents can position themselves for long-term success in the space. Based on today's attendance, I'm going to say that this topic seems to resonate with a lot of people, so we're glad that we're here to have this conversation. So we're lucky to have a fantastic panel today. I'm going to start by introducing them. So first up, we have Mark Schnicke. Mark is the co-founder and principal of Schnicke Design Build Remodel, a high-end custom home builder, remodeler, and commercial construction firm. He and his partner have more than 70 years combined experience in construction and carpentry. A little tidbit about Mark: he began his journey in the business by building decks as a high school student.
Wow, how do you know that?
Everything's available out there. Next, we have Michelle Moran. Michelle is the founder and co-owner of J&K Custom Homes, founded in 2004, and has become one of Cincinnati's top luxury home builders. Prior to jumping into the residential construction industry, Michelle served in executive corporate finance roles with Fifth Third Bank and Deloitte. Next up, we have Mike Hines, probably no stranger to most of you. Mike is the co-founder and lead agent for the Euler Hines Group of Coldwell Banker Realty. He's an award-winning realtor with more than 15 years experience in real estate, specializing in new construction, land, and development. Mike's passion for real estate runs in his blood, with his father being a land developer and his mother a realtor. And from an early age, he accompanied his dad to job sites, doing jobs from shoveling curbs to weed whacking. Found that online about you.
Still do that.
And then finally, we have Andrea Lucky DiStefano. She is the sales manager with Sibsy Klein with more than 25 years of experience in both new home construction and resale properties. As a realtor, she has consistently been ranked in the top 1% of agents in the Cincinnati area. She's a past president of the HBA of Greater Cincinnati and began her career working alongside her father and brother in the family's multi-generational home building business. So this is quite the esteemed panel. So I'm going to start with a few questions for them, and then we'll open it up to questions from you. So why don't we get started with some questions about the builder-realtor relationship. So this would be Andrea, I think, and Michelle, but everyone is welcome to weigh in. How can agents actually get on a builder's radar in a positive way? One of y'all take it.
Well, I think this is probably the perfect way to start is being
Yeah.
here, just like this. Get to say hi. I mean, there's out here in the crowd, you have Brad Ollinger from Sterling Homes, Ethan McAlpine. Well, obviously, they stick together. You got a few builders in here. So just say hi, start chatting. So, I mean, just to really be present, show up, be helpful. I think that's probably the easiest way to start, especially if you don't do a lot of new construction just yet. But just, I think that's where I got started. I got started shoveling curbs So I was actually, Brad and I, way back in the day, used to help our dads show them whatever it was.
No, must have. It doesn't work well in this.
Yeah, watch where you are. No, but I mean, just that kind of stuff. Just being present, being helpful, and just not being there necessarily with your hand out, I think is probably the best way, showing you can contribute. You know, I don't want to speak for you as a builder, or Mark, you as well.
I mean, we love it when a realtor reaches out to learn more about us and follows us on Instagram and knows our product. That just makes it a warm conversation instead of feeling like a cold call. So it's kind of the basics.
So what are some behaviors that make you want to work with agents again? And then what are some things that agents might do that unintentionally damage the trust between new construction and the sale?
When I'm having my children that live all the way on the other side of the country, I ask them, when you go look for a realtor, look for somebody who's going to add value to the equation. You know, ask the right questions, really bring something to the table, and I think that's invaluable to your homeowners, to us as a builder, and it makes it much smoother and a much better experience for everyone.
I've had the opportunity, so I actually rep 3 builders. So Lucky's my family, DeStefano is my husband, and then I do rep Somerset Custom Homes, which is John Cowan. And so I've had the opportunity to be on both sides of the fence too, to where I'm sitting, working for the builder, right? And then so you as an agent comes in and with your client, and then obviously me on the other side too, where I'm bringing a client to possibly another builder. So I've seen both sides of it, which has been great. I would say for me on the builder side of things is that kind of what Mark said too is providing that value and actually being there for the first time with the client, and then trying to make every meeting as possible because we want you to be involved in some respects. I mean, I think it's important from a communication standpoint. We actually talked about this in our last panel with Ethan, is that, you know, we want you, although you're representing your buyer, we also want you to help the process with the builder. We all want to work together on this. So I think that's important. I mean, I've been able to see both sides of it, but we definitely want you to be present and provide value.
So that's a good segue, Andrea. How can the real estate agent help manage those buyers' expectations through the building of a new home? Because what are the most common misunderstood things about the process that the buyer might not know that the agent could help lead them through?
I think it more of I'll just say first, just because I'm here, if it's okay, she's talking to me, but.
I'm talking to everybody.
Okay, I know, but you're looking at me, but, you know, sometimes we don't know everything, right? And it's important for you to bring that knowledge of what you know to your client and having that upfront expectation. So you say, okay, we're gonna go through this custom building process. Great. Now, I'm not gonna know everything, but we're gonna work with a builder that's gonna help you through the process, and I'm gonna help you along the way too. So from walking the land with the builder, going through the architectural process, not every agent takes their client from A to Z, right? So, and I think it's important to have that expectation with the client, because some clients, I think, don't want you there, right?
Agreed.
And that's okay, as long as you have, if you have the communication in the beginning, and they say, you know what, we don't need you to pick out our selections, you know, you can help us from the beginning part. As long as you have those expectation and communication with the client, then everything should be fine. So talking with them from the beginning of how the process is going to work is very important.
And to your point, understanding the role they want you to play. Do you want me on the selection meetings or not? We're indifferent. We want whatever the client wants. And as long as the realtor and the client are aligned, you're welcome to every meeting. We'll copy you on everything. It's when there's disconnect or it feels forced or the expectation wasn't clear, oh, the realtor's not going to be here for that, that's when it feels like it gets a little rocky. We also find it very helpful when the realtor is kind of the calming effect sometimes, because there's a lot of emotion on the client side and you're a therapist. and you're sitting there saying, hey, this is okay, this is normal, or you're calling the builder to get a line like, hey, this has struck a note with them, how do we work through this together? But they do, it's definitely, it's a calming and helps with the whole collaboration of it all.
I'll use an example. Bryce Allen, I'm looking at him over here. I don't know if you guys know Bryce. Bryce and I are teammates over here on the team. And before he represented a client recently, he called and he's like, hey, got this client. They're looking at a property out, and I can't remember where it was, Claremont County somewhere. And you said, what do you think they need from me? Where can I provide the most value in that stuff? So just the fact that he's asking that question and he's being prepared, I think goes a long way, because just like Michelle and Andrea were saying, not every client needs the same thing. Everybody needs something different. Some do need design help, some don't want you there. Some need help on the land acquisition, some don't. So just knowing what they need from you and being prepared before you go into that first meeting goes a long way with everybody sitting up here on the other side of the table. Because if we immediately see that you're not necessarily providing value to your customer, I'm gonna be blunt for a second, because I'm sorry, this gets brought up a lot of times behind scenes, and it won't do you guys any service if we don't bring it up. Sometimes builders are like, well, I'm not sure why that person's sitting there. And that happens from time to time. And the main reason it happens is, one is because maybe that agent, that person hasn't been well enough prepared to go into the meeting to ask the right questions. And that's pretty easy to do. You can make 1 or 2 phone calls before a meeting. You can ask your friends and colleagues here, have you ever worked with this builder? Have you ever worked with this neighborhood? Just a couple questions that show you that you've prepared and that you're gonna add value go a heck of a long way. That will help the builder perceive you as a value add. So, bro, when Bryce made that phone call to me, I just remember thinking, gosh, this is fantastic. And I'm not giving you kudos just because obviously you're here and thank you for being here. But like, you do that you do that very well though. And so I think the more prepared we can all be going into a realm that we don't know, the better off we'll be. And builders want to work with you. They want you to bring clients to them. I can say that with 100% certainty. But just try to come in with a little bit of knowledge base before you get in.
So that's a good follow-up. Are there things that can unintentionally cause tension in that process, or things that agents should avoid saying or doing that you kind of thought to yourself when that happened, please don't say that, please don't say that?
In my perspective, I think it has a lot to do with what your client expectation is. I mean, we're fine with the agent getting us started. We'll take care of you all the way through. It just really depends whether the client really needs you there at every meeting, because sometimes I get kind of cumbersome trying to schedule everyone's calendar together. And it's really, I think, most important to just get that comfort level with the builder you're building with, and then, knowing when you need to be involved and when you don't need to be involved. Because it can get, I have had situations where it got like almost an argument between the agent and the client in the middle of my meeting, and I'm like, wow, well, how do I manage this?
It's hard enough to manage, yeah.
So that's a big part of it, I think, is understanding what their expectations are. And I don't, I think in my mind, it's kind of a waste of everyone's time for you to be involved in the meetings after like the first 3 or 4 meetings. Because I think at that point, it just gets complicated and convoluted, and people start making expectations that aren't necessarily realistic for all sides.
I think one of the things I found is I appreciate when agents are there and they're just making notes, right? So just make notes for your client. Obviously, you can provide whatever value that you think is important, but I think that taking the notes is huge, because it really helps you with your client. Like, hey, did we tell the builder we wanted hardwood on the first floor? Whatever it might be. Like, oh, let me look back at the notes, those type of things. I think it's important that you're going to really provide value to your clients if you take some notes.
The other thing I would say, don't ask at the first meeting is how much you're getting paid. It's just, it happens a lot. Like, it's just like, and even with clients sometimes sitting there next to them, you can pull one of us aside and ask us that question. Keep in mind, it says it in your buyer broker agreement. If you don't, a builder meeting counts, by the way, as showing a house. At least I believe that it should,
Yes.
because the moment you're crossing that threshold, it's like opening the front door to a house. So don't take a client to a builder meeting without having your buyer broker signed, because then they're going to immediately question how much do they owe you, how are you participating. Having that conversation up front helps a lot. So if you think new construction might be a good choice for them, have that conversation when you're in there. Say, hey, I'm not just looking to resell homes. I'm also going to look at new construction options, and I want you to share opportunities with me that you might be interested in. But normally, if you're dealing with any of the builders up here, it's going to be a custom home, and they're going to have put a line item in there for you. Whether it's a transparent cost model, which means you see everything, or it's a fixed price where they're just giving the client an end number. And I don't know if everybody understands the difference between that, but every builder kind of operates a little differently. But they'll plug you in a certain number. And when they do that, they do need to know how much you're getting
You
paid.
do need to know the number.
Yes, they do need to know that number. Just
Yes.
day one's
Please
probably
let
not
us
the
know
right
the
day.
number.
Yes,
Yeah.
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 I will, the only thing I'd add to that is, I just thought of something I really disliked, is when I'm in my third meeting with the homeowner, and an agent comes in. And at that point, I'll look to the homeowner and go, you know, is this what you want? You know, and it's, hopefully it's soon enough where I haven't gone down the price to really, you know, get way deep in the weeds. But I mean, that's a frustrating, I do really appreciate, and I think every agent should have an agreement with their buyer before, just to protect themselves. Because it happens too on the flip side, is you'll work with a homeowner for 6 months, and all of a sudden they show up at my office, you know, and say, oh, I'm looking to buy a house, and no one, they don't, more often than not, it's a homeowner doing that, not the agent. But that gets really sticky with us, you know, because then the agent's like, then it's a confrontation between the homeowner and the agent. But if I was going to be an agent, I would always sign an agreement with my buyer so that they don't do that to me, and then also make it very complicated.
Can we dive in there for a second? Because that's a really good point. Is I think how many of you guys have had a rogue client that just starts running around doing whatever they want? Yeah. Right? Sometimes you can't control them, right? I mean, you guys have them as builders as well. Oh, we got one right now. It's hard to regulate. But when that happens, the more you communicate with your client, if you're talking to them once a month, then of course this is going to happen, right? They're going to be bouncing around. If you're talking to them on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis, then you can just communication solves almost every single problem that exists here. So when your client does go out, try to tell them that early on, like, hey, I'd really like you to let me know if you're going to talk to a builder, if you're because you might not have had any idea they're actually considering that. Just talk to them, communicate with them, reach out to them.
Did you want to add something?
Kind of a great question. I don't know if we're allowed to ask questions yet, and I'd love an answer from everybody on the panel here. To tie in with communication and cost, how do you guys handle change orders with builders, agents, and clients, and how are agents getting paid on change orders? Because on custom houses, I mean, a lot of times you can start at $1 million, $1.5 million, but you start going down the rabbit hole, you can have $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 worth of change orders before you know it.
This would be a great time right now to create a standard for everybody to follow. So
Yeah.
we all just so yeah, we'll get the whiteboard out. Yes.
Perfect that it's raining right now, so nobody can really hear me.
Nothing I say really matters anyway, so it's okay. Yeah.
I can tell you how we handle it. For us, we're always a fixed cost builder. My partner would tell me we should be a cost plus builder, but I never really liked that model. So we pay based on the contract. Anything that changes after that, you know, is just a change order that the builder has to learn. And unfortunately, we never make enough money on change orders. Like everyone thinks we do, but we don't.
I'll concur that. I mean, it's hard to change, you know, you're throwing 15-20% on a change order. They see the cost of that. Why they've got to pay you, and then you've got an agent on the flip side that just paid $100,000+ to that. Now it's every time the customer makes a change, I don't think it's fair.
So we're fixed cost also, and we pay on the contract, not on change orders. We work through Builder Trend, which a lot of builders use, and we actually add the realtor into Builder Trend so they can see the change orders coming through just like the client can, which is awesome because they can keep up to speed on things. But no, there's just no room on change orders to be paying a realtor, and I just don't think that would feel good either. And that's a hard value proposition probably for you guys to sell. That, by the way, we want a commission on all that. Just, you know, if we've done our job right and priced the job, and your commission reflects the value you're bringing, we shouldn't have to nickel and dime them along the way for that.
Good answer.
And it's different, just to make sure, because I'm sure a lot of you have done new construction, some of you may have done just a few deals here and there. It can be different. So fixed price, normally you're a percentage of the fixed price, right? So that's normally how it goes, which can and may not include a lot. If you go to a production builder, they might have it based on a base price. So it might be, if you're building a $700,000 house, you might only be getting paid on $500 because it was the base price plus the add-ons on there. So just so you know, it can be different. And then on a cost plus deal, you're a line item that maybe is even added on every single item or on that initial contract price. So what we're talking about, just to kind of set the tone, it's different on every single circumstance. But I would make a suggestion to follow the lead of contract price is probably a good number to be based commission on. Because that's what's set at the time of contract signing. It doesn't fluctuate up and down. You don't need to participate in the extras. It's normally a higher price point than a resale home would be, so it's fair when it comes down to it. So, just my 2 cents.
Yeah, did you want to add?
Of the 3 builders that I represent, they all are a fixed cost builder too, and they pay the contract price. So it's simple.
So I know I've been in some conversations, the last panel that we had talking about real estate, where because of the way that things get listed in the MLS, they may not know about opportunities in the new construction space. So can you talk a little bit about how they can learn more about that, how they can find out places that they might have, that they could introduce clients to? Is it about builder relationships, or is there some other go-to way to do that?
Well, I mean, this is actually a really hot button item right now because we struggle with this left and right. I know we've talked about it. We actually have a task force with the MLS coming up here in a couple weeks or next week. When we get I'm just going to show an example. We get a listing, let's just say it's a tear down lot. We have one over here on Sandy Marks, for example. I'll talk a little louder. So when we get a lot, sometimes we don't have anything to list. So there's no house that we can actually list on MLS. So sometimes the best source of information is people. Just calling the builders, sending texts, sending emails, just like you do when you're looking for a resale opportunity and you're looking at Indian Hill and you reach out to Allison Thornton or Kelly Pear, whoever that is, whoever that is in that market that's that focused. You're doing the same thing. So if you're looking in Montgomery for a teardown, you might call Andrea or myself, right? That's the best source. MLS is fantastic, and we're trying to make that better, but occasionally properties don't make it to MLS. You had the new development over off Ward's Corner. I'm not sure if when you first got those, they were listed in the MLS in the beginning, when you first got that.
Yeah, and that was, I failed miserably at marketing that.
You have them all sold, don't you?
What's that?
Aren't they all sold now?
No.
Probably somebody here.
So, if anybody wants to be a neighbor of mine and Dana Nelson's, reach out to me. Or if you have an agent, a buyer that wants to do that, we'll do, for lack of a better term, I hate the term, a paper house on there, and that will be listed.
Yeah.
But we do honor every agent that brings us, we pay a 3% co-op at the closing.
We have to vet you though.
What's that?
We have to vet them.
Yeah, you're not automatically in the neighborhood, but we do have 3 lots left.
That's why you're not getting the sales.
Big exception is my client.
No, it's no, that's and it's important, and actually this kind of leads into my other business, which is what I'd really like to talk a little more about, because I think the challenge in real estate right now, as I see it, is builders and developers can add inventory. The inventory that's out there now and existing is obviously a very big challenge. Everyone writes 10 contracts to get one, what I hear. If you go to a builder, one of us, or you go to Fisher, because we develop for Fisher, we develop for D.R. Horton, we're getting ready to develop for Pulte's coming to town. Those guys all honor commissions. Because I personally asked them, because I'm like, I don't want to say that, and then find out that they don't. And that's how we're going to make this market good again. Whereas you don't have to fight for every sale you get. So as a developer, we're adding inventory. As a builder, we're adding inventory. As a existing home, they're locked down. No one wants to sell it because they lose their interest rate. But it's a big challenge in the market today. You know, there's way more, as you guys all know, there's way more need than there is housing available. So I would reach out to, even if it's just, you know, you can go with the stuff we do is high end, obviously, but you can work your way right down to almost a first time buyer, and you got a lot of options, and you don't have to negotiate. You don't have to worry about getting outbid by 100,000. So I think that's a good option to think about for your buyer. And then one thing that I always learned, because my sister a long time ago was our agent, and every time she sold one of our new houses, she got an automatic resale, almost exclusively. So I mean, it's a great way to build your market as well. And you know, obviously, if somebody wants to buy a $300,000 house, it's really hard to do in existing homes, I'm guessing. But a lot of the builders do have that. None of these up here do. But so that's something to think about, and it's something worthwhile. They all have a great, fairly decent program. So something, you know, don't leave that out, because that's an important option for your buyer.
And new construction like that isn't always on MLS. So that's where it's a little bit more of a challenge. So sometimes what Pulte has, what MI, Fisher, just keep that in mind. Sometimes it's MLS and sometimes it's not. So you have to really keep an eye out there and be vigilant and try to find that.
I was just gonna go back to that too, just, you know, relationships are so important, and like I think Mike said in the beginning, is being present. So if you come to these meetings and we have a relationship and we get to know each other, you can send us a text to say, hey, Andrea, I have a client looking to build in Montgomery, do you have anything coming up? I might at that time, and same thing with anybody up here. So I think that it's really important to have relationships with other agents that do new construction so that we can help each other out.
The builders are all very approachable. I mean, just so you know, like it's not like they're behind the scenes. They're available. Right? So just don't be afraid to reach out. Shoot text, inquiries online, that sort of thing. It'll be helpful.
So who has questions?
I had a question. So you brought up different types of builders. So production versus market versus semi-custom versus custom. So what are the expectations that we should have and our client should have at different levels of building?
Well,
Let's keep going to my question.
I'm just talking too much, so I'm trying to stay.
yeah, I'm trying to. I'll speak to, because we develop lots for Fisher, D.R. Horton, Sumford Greaves, and also Pulte coming up. And I think it's just understanding the process, and it's worthwhile. And to me, it's more, when you're looking at a builder like that, it's more about, do they have the location where your homeowner wants to be? Because, you know, we can try to sell houses where people don't want to live, but it doesn't work. So I think it's important just to understand, and if I was an agent, I would study the builders up here, and I would study all the production guys and understand what their process is, and they're more than willing to help you understand how they do things. And it's you know, it's kind of important to learn that. The more you learn, the better off you're going to be to represent your buyer. And I think I kind of wonder if sometimes people don't think about that build option when you're not thinking about $1 million houses, $1.5 million. You know, but there's plenty of options at a lower price point. It's just not from us.
I think one thing that I did when I, like, however many years ago, when I first started in the business, is that I would actually go around to a couple production builders and go to their model and meet people, right? So you're meeting the salespeople there and kind of understanding like what their product's like, what the subdivision is like. So especially if you're selling in one particular area, I always felt like it was, I enjoyed meeting the people in the model, the sales reps there.
Yeah.
Because they really were a wealth of knowledge, and I've gained relationships over the years because of that. So I think can help you on the production side.
I think budget's gonna be a hard line also, because we can't build at 1.2 right now, and it's crazy, but Dries is building at 1.2. So it's kind of shifted how the production builders are starting to almost try to overlap the low end of custom. But sometimes the the budget right there is kind of gonna be where you start and finish, and, okay, are we starting with a production, or are we starting with a custom conversation?
When you are looking to go into a development or build it in a development, and you're looking for a broker, what are you expecting from the broker to bring to the table from a marketing standpoint versus what you as the builder are looking to bring?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I mean,
What are you looking for a
if you're
realtor?
if you're gonna hire a real estate agent to
Yeah.
help you represent and sell your product, whether it's a development or maybe a.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got that. For me, it's always who brings the most value. What, don't just, come, I can put you a paper listing together and blah, We need plans, we need to understand what you're planning on doing and how best to work with us and create an opportunity. These guys do a great job of it. I only know because I bought a property from them that I paid way overpaid for.
We did our job.
And Rakesh Ram was on my side, which he did a pretty good job of trying to keep it insane. But it's really just creating that value, and it's not just, there's got to be more to it than just I'll be your agent, I'll get you the MLS. Those days are over.
Right.
The MLS doesn't do. I take that back. The MLS is a thing to be in, but there's a lot of other opportunities to market your builder and create value. Again, it's in my mind, I don't care what you're doing in life. If you're not creating value, I got no use for you. So.
We work with several realtors, a lot with Mike and his team, but we bring them into the marketing and strategic planning part of our business. So he knows what we're trying to get to number-wise and how many homes we're trying to build, because it's much more of you're more part of a JK team than just, can you get a listing, let's get a paper house, do we have any showings? So to your point, that kind of relationship, I think, left our world personally 10 years ago. It's always been now more of your strategic partner. And then thinking outside the box on marketing and staying up to date with what's going on with different angles on social media or YouTube and all different things, that someone who's staying kind of cutting edge on what's grabbing people's attention and helping with the branding strategy, that really speaks to us more.
I think the beauty of this business, it's you can be anything you want to be, right? There's a lot of different realms in here. Just remember, you can't be everything to everybody. That's just it. So if you want to choose to do this, you want to represent folks like Michelle and Mark, you got to understand that that's going to be a pretty big core of your business, because it's not, you can't look at this once a month. You have to be looking at it routinely, every day. We talk almost every single day, right? So that happens a lot. I know you talk with, well, obviously you talk to Dan a lot. But when it comes out, there's you talk to your brother, you talk to Somerset, you talk to them a lot, right? It becomes you're part of their business. And I think the key is, I like this word. I'm going to steal this from somebody else. I think it was a guy named Kevin Oakley who's up in Columbus. He said, be operational. So you're not just their marketing and sales team, you're operational. You understand the core of their business and what their focus is. And you're going to help them figure that out. It's not just going to end with putting a sign up in the yard and putting this ad in the paper. It's more than that. So you got to be operational.
I think the hardest thing for custom builders is getting the word out of who they are, because they're not a big production builder where they've got $1 million to spend on marketing, right? So really, from what I've understood, is that most of the builders, what we like to hear is that you are out there on the ground talking to realtors, talking to clients, that you're getting their name out, because they're not spending a ton of money on marketing because they're such a small builder. So I think that plays a lot into the role of a realtor representing a builder.
And Andrew, what you're so good at, you're good at connecting, you're out there, you're out front and center with lots, so they tap into your network, right? So them partnering with Andrea, that's huge. That's a big part of it, is because now she might not have to market specifically for them, but she knows all of you all, right? So you can give her a call, and then she's going to connect you with the right person. Maybe that's a builder she represents, maybe it's somebody else. So I think tapping into your network, you each have them, that's huge.
Yeah.
It's a really big part.
So I know another question that has come up quite a bit, and I guess I would call this the economics of custom building, is that whole idea of making sure that the buyer knows what kind of costs are going to be involved in that. And like you said, the price point has really changed. I remember being doing one of these panels and hearing that used to be $1 million, $1.5 million was like a big custom home, and now it's hard for a custom home builder to do it for $1 million. So understanding what your client can afford and whether or not custom building is really for them, or if they might be better suited for the higher end of a production builder. So can you talk a little bit of, sort of about the economics of it all?
I'll tell you, one issue we've had on 2 deals right now is that what the client says their budget is and what their real budget is. And unfortunately, that's really probably something the realtor needs to help peel back the onion on, because it really takes the ship the wrong way. So that's the first thing, is really understanding what their number is, and then if we do our job right, we're setting the expectation of, well, here's what you'll get for that number in that range. But it's incredible what's happened with prices, and someone calls and says, I can spend, like I said, I can spend $1 million, 1.2, and it's kind of heart-wrenching for me to say, I hate to tell you this, but I can't help. So that's been a shift in the environment a lot.
Yeah, and I would tag on to that it is important to know what the real budget is. People don't want to tell you, because I've actually designed houses that weren't right, because they told me they wanted to spend X, and they really wanted to spend X plus Y. And sometimes that Y is a huge amount of money, and I'm like, what the heck happened there? I've had people double, I'm like, well, we can't, what the best is, like, people say, hey, I want to spend $1.2 million. And I say, well, I can't do anything for you. And I feel guilty as all get out. I mean, it's like ridiculous. And then I explain myself why I can't do it. Not that I'm just some rich builder just making so much money, because I'm not. But if you give us the right, if you start out with the right expectations, it's not like I'm going to jack the price up because you can spend more. We're going to design a house and stuff that fits for what you really want. And I think that's a very important part of that. But I also think, to understand, and there are some semi-custom builders, for lack of a better term. I don't really understand the total terminology, but there are guys that are out there doing lower price stuff than we are, and I often wonder how they're doing it. But I'm not going to learn to do it. So I think it's kind of understanding what builders can do what. And I think that goes all the way down and all the way up. There's guys that can't even touch the prices we do. Don't call, Dahlman and Bull and ask for $1.6 million. Ain't gonna get it. But I think that's important to understand, and maybe manage that expectation of your buyer as well, so that they don't waste their time, waste your time, and get frustrated. Because it is frustrating. And it is a little surprising. Teresa's building houses across the street from us that are, between a 1.2 and 1.6. Like, what? But that's life, that's what's happening. So
That's probably important to know, is like, when you come to a custom home builder, probably starting in the 1.2, 1.3 range now. It's not $1 million anymore. Production builders go up to $1.5 million. I mean, it's just the reality. And production's a bad word, right? Their houses aren't, yes, they're fixed floor plans. There's only so many things you can put in them, but just keep in mind, like, they serve a great purpose. That same amount of square footage you probably couldn't get with, unfortunately, Mark and Michelle over here on that front, because of it. That's just the reality of it. So it's not a bad thing to know, but just know that under $1 million, you're probably not getting a custom home. Maybe you can get a nice semi-production-ish home. Some builders can do that if the lot price is cheap enough. But I like that $1 million to $1.2 million threshold seems to be the difference between custom and more of like a semi-custom, semi-production. Would that be fair? I know you deal in both realms as well. It's it can be a challenge.
I think one thing that would be great for you guys to answer, and I know we talked about it before in our last panel, but is I know a lot of agents ask what the builder's price per square foot is. So I think it's important to know whether they should ask that question,
Yeah.
and if they do ask that question, why you answer it the way you do.
I generally tell them I don't know. Because the reality is I can build the same house, same floor plan, same layout for $1.4 million. I can build it for $2 million. And it's just a matter of, the other part of that gets frustrating for me is people will go, and we're doing this all the time now, people are going, well, you know, they do the cost per square foot after I give them the price. And I'm like, well, yeah, you're right, but did you allow for the fact that you have 1,200 square feet of outdoor living space that costs the same as the indoor living space? Oh, no, well, we didn't calculate that. Well, that makes a difference, a big difference. So, yeah, I generally don't, we should go back and look at that after we're done. But to me, it doesn't really mean anything because, again, I can build the same house and, you know, I can create the same appliances, or not the same appliances that do the same function for $15,000 or $115,000. They just are different. So how do you equate that into cost per square foot? You can't.
So what do you think the proper question is for an agent to ask, the builder, if they're looking for a client? Do you think it's better for them to say, hey, I have a client that's looking to build, 1.5 without land, roughly? What can we get for that? Is that a better question to ask?
Yeah, I think it definitely is.
Because that's what they're trying to get to.
Yeah, for
obviously,
us,
on the price per
for us,
square
what we
foot,
do is, what I try to do is I'll go back, and I can't go too far back in history, I'll go back and look at something we built recently that's similar to that and go, this is what you could get
Right.
there with this type of finishes. And, all the finishes are very high end. But again, and it seems like appliances are the one that kick us all the time. Like, I literally had a house not that long ago. Didn't seem like there was that many appliances, but the appliances were $160,000. I'm like, oh, God.
Is that Dana's house?
No, that is not. I will tell you, she's very good at, if you consider value engineering an expensive house, value engineering, she's very good and that's something an agent can really bring to the table as well. Where people are going, oh, I got to have a 72-inch Viking oven and range. I'm like, well, understand what that's costing you, and or the 6-foot Sub-Zero. Understanding where you want to spend that money and kind of guide them on how, you might want to do this, but you might not want to do that and do this. So I mean that's part of it, but I think it's understanding, and if I can show you a house that I built recently that kind of gets you in the realm, that's very helpful for people. But if I throw a cost per square foot at you, I don't even know what that really means anymore.
Right. We pull up other houses we've built that seems to check some of the boxes that I'm hearing they're looking for. And then the accountant in me, when they really push on a number, I give them a super wide range, 380 to 500 a square foot. And they're like, oh, good. And then they do the math. They're like, well, that's not helpful. I'm like, right. So we're back to let's design the house and then let's price it out and let's talk more about what you want. But it is. I mean, it can go all over the board, and there's so many variables. But that's also the beauty of custom building is we're building a beta product we've never built before. It's going to be just for you. So there's, that's the upside.
And that isn't always for everyone. I've built some houses for people that really would have been better off going to Drees and picking out stuff through their selection center, because it can either be a really fun process, and I think we do a very good job of managing that process, but it can also, if you're not, my wife would be horrible at going through a whole selection of houses. Luckily, when we do it, she doesn't get that involved. But, so.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'd like to go back to your comment about understanding the builder's core operations. And so if you're developing a relationship with a builder, what are those questions to really understand their core operations so that you can be more of a strategic partner as you continue building that trust and collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because I think it's really about solving problems for them. Like, if they don't have an inherent issue, then they don't necessarily need anything, right? It's like they might not need to bring somebody in to solve a problem that they don't know to fix, right? So understanding if they have a new development, how they need, let's use Trailside Estates, which quite a few of us up here are involved in. Trailside Estates, obviously, they're bringing that out to market, it's getting developed, they want to get some sales up and running, so, okay, you're solving you need a solution for how you can get buyers in there at the right price point to get those going, which lots of, so I think it's more of like asking questions, being really inquisitive to understand what is driving them, what do they need. Builders inherently, and I'm looking at you only because you obviously work together, but they tend to know already what they want, right? Like, it's not a surprise. They know exactly what they need now. They may not know exactly how to get there. So it's more like, hey, I know I want this. I know I'm this type of builder. So just asking questions to see what can serve them best. And then does the services you provide match that? I don't know if I'm answering your question directly, but like every development is so different. Every single one. We just did one that's on the west end. That's a very, very drastically different project than is what we do here on the east side, right? So just as you're looking at different projects, they all need a different sense of product type and services on there. So just asking questions to understand that. And then don't immediately go, if you don't know the builder very well, don't immediately go into pitch mode. Just be curious. See how you can help them. Like, I think that's where it's probably best. Help them before you ask them to help you.
Build a relationship first.
Goes for all of our clients.
Did you have a question?
What areas of town in the next 5 years are going to be targeted for infill properties? What's going to be the future? Where are you looking, where the buyers build?
I feel like this was a planted question. I love it. It's a great question, yes. Yeah, I'm curious too now. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, Indian Hill never seems to slow down if you can ever find something there. I see more pushing into the Mainville, the Lebanon, the whole Cincinnati, Dayton combining. I think that's going to continue to build out. We just talked about Deer Park. You know, there's some of these outskirts areas that are turning over, and those will be exciting spots to be in.
You said Deer Park?
Yeah, we were talking about that. It's coming around. Here we go.
I don't think there's anything to buy, any land buy.
I'll answer that from two perspectives, because my other business is land development, and we develop for the big boys. And those guys, they feel strongly about that Cincinnati-Dayton connection. Wait, I got a sale. No, just kidding. Sorry about that. God, that's bad. So that's a big part of it. But for my building company, I've always told people I pretty much go straight up and down 71 from Hyde Park to Mason. We're starting to move a little bit west, and there, I think the Liberty Township, that corridor up there, we're seeing a lot of really big houses being built. I've not done any of them. Well, I've done them a long time ago, but so that's a big part of it for the custom side. But for the Fishers and Drees and those guys, they're looking really they're looking everywhere. So another way that you guys can add value and also make some more money, helping if you know anyone, if you want to look for land, that's how you really create. You don't need a buyer. You just need to hustle and find some land and bring it to me.
My office is close by.
Bring an extra 1%. No, and I think, and that's something to think about in your business model. And it could be as simple as finding a lot teardown. Not something I want, but we're developing stuff anywhere. Believe it or not, we're doing a Kings School District. We're doing a development that's 1.5 acres and 10 homes. Fisher's building them. So to give you a target for what we're looking for, all over Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Dayton, and anywhere from, well, we probably won't find another 1.5 acre site, but anywhere from 10 to 200 acres.
Well, and I think the question was just asked about, hey, what can you provide to some, that's a perfect example. Come with a piece of property, even if it's not a great, you'll never know if it's a perfect property. Like the one you think is the best ends up not being, and the one you're not so sure about might be the one that they jump after. So just bringing opportunities to these three up here is enormous. And I mean, obviously there's plenty of builders in the room. Like bringing these opportunities to them is going to give you immediate credibility.
And we look at a lot of stuff that doesn't work, and we're fine with that. We know that's going to happen. That's part of the business. So don't be bashful. it's worth exploring. Generally, we want to look for stuff with sewer nearby, but, you know, that's really the only criteria, because we're in Batavia, Dayton, Kings, we're everywhere with those guys. But for my building company, if I'm gonna develop something for us, it's gonna be close to my house. Loveland, Indian Hill. Yeah.
Bryce, you'd asked,
I got a small radius where I build.
Just curious, Bryce, you were asking about other infill markets. They tend to be close to cores, like a city center to some degree, Montgomery, Madeira, those types of areas. So, I mean, I know you live in Anderson. Anderson is probably right there. There's already been plenty of development, but as it gets just built out, they're going to look at it for teardowns of larger tracts, right? I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts of areas that are more.
I think I feel like I've seen just more recently, especially with my brother, looking more in the, like Michelle said, in the rural areas, like more like Morrow, Little Miami School District, and towards like close to Loveland, and then also Goshen. Obviously, we've done quite a bit of stuff in Goshen. There's more stuff coming there. So I think that a lot of it in the next couple of years are going to go out in those areas, because I mean, that's really all that there is. You know,
Yeah, and it's,
versus our normal, the areas that we want to live in the Loveland, Montgomery, Indian Hill areas.
Yeah, and that makes total sense because, you know, if you can find it, it's expensive. So, you know, so some people, we're seeing a lot of people move to Goshen that I never would have thought 5 years ago would happen. So that makes a lot of sense.
What about building in the city limits?
Which city?
Cities it's max?
Yeah, no thanks.
Too far then.
Brad loves to do
It
that.
is too far from my house, but it's also very
Yeah.
difficult to work with.
We have a project
I said we
on
got two
Erie
things.
Avenue, and it's been tricky, but it's a good project. So, yeah, I mean, that's always a hot market. It's just finding the tear down or
Yeah, so
the diamond in the
there'd be
rough.
plenty of people would want it. Probably not me.
Do you want to add anything to that, Ethan?
It's great for remodel, not so great for new construction because your tear downs are $450, $550. I mean, it's getting outrageous to what tear downs are becoming. So if you need a good remodel or a heritage building for, you know, I'm serious. It's the fees that are involved. I mean, I did a house in Indian Hill. Our permit fees were $1,500, $1,600. I did a half the size of the house in the city of Cincinnati, $15,000. And that's not land, that's just to get the city to let you do it.
I think going to that point though too is it's important to make sure you work with it. Like if you do have a client for the city of Cincinnati is asking those questions to the builders, have you worked in this jurisdiction before, right? Because otherwise it could be a disaster, right?
I mean, they say they want to build in the city, but like obviously it's challenging because they're
Right.
set. But I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you could. I mean, there's bus rapid transit's coming down Ludlow and Reading Road. I mean, there's all this opening up of
Yeah.
this empty land, you know, commercial stuff that you could potentially repurpose.
Yeah.
So I just don't know.
The challenge is where does it start, right? Because if you look at the predominant amount of building is going to be going where it's safe, right? So not meaning safe from a crime standpoint, meaning safe your investment.
Right.
So if the integrity of the neighborhood's strong, then you go there. Hyde Park, Mount Lookout, certain areas, even Madisonville's really improved over the years to be comfortable building. When it comes to some of these new areas, people don't want to be pioneers, and if they are pioneers, it's at a lower price point. So I think that's the challenge. And then if it's a pain in the butt to do any kind of building and developing in the city, you're scaring a lot of folks away. The city hasn't done themselves any
That's for sure.
favors when it comes to building there because they make it so complicated. And so when you have a client that wants to build a new home, it's probably best just to look at what is on MLS, what developments are out there already going, because that's what's going to get them in the house within the next year or 2 or 3. If you wait for a brand new project, it can take forever, and it's not fun. Foundry Park, which was our home Rama was last year, that project took years to get up and running. So it's in the city. I don't want to say the city's at fault. I mean, Aaron, you know, obviously, you're pretty well connected on down there. It is really hard to build in the city because they do everything to convince you not to. And they don't mean to do that, but they're just doing it. So and Brad's been down there doing it for what now, 15 years, 20 years now, building down the city. It's only gotten harder, right? Now you're building Liberty Township, for God's sake.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm on 77 acres.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So just know, that's another thing is when you're representing buyers with new construction, like understand what you don't know. Ask questions. The tax abatement is really kind of can be complicated. Not what it just is on paper, but how you get to it. There's 1,000 different little nuances that unfortunately your buyers are going to expect you to know. I don't know them all, and I've done quite a few houses down there. Just ask questions and be honest with your buyers. Be honest with the builders on what you don't know, because it's when you're full of crap that you get caught on it and you get in trouble. I tell you, I mean, it's got me. I've done that time and time again where I thought I knew what I knew, and I didn't. So just realize that.
Yeah, that's a good point on the lead stuff. You've really got to pay attention to it, because you don't need, you get tripped up a couple times and all of a sudden you're a person that's building a $2 million house doesn't get any lead credit. That'd be a bad situation for everybody involved. I did just finish my last house in the city of Cincinnati. We did get our certification.
Any other questions? Yes, you.
Any concern with the way the population is going? We're seeing all this expansion going into Goshen, Batavia, Morrow. All these developments are pushing, especially from the production builders, which usually production leads custom out to those ways, and custom kind of follows that. So you're looking at the baby boomer population dying off, and I know it's a terrible way to say it, but they are slowly dying off to where the millennials being the largest generation, and then everything slowing down behind that to where all of a sudden in a decade or so, there's this demand for new construction, well, all of a sudden the population is going to shift really strong. So is there any concern? Is there any, worrisome about all this expansion and this development? To all of a sudden you're going to be developed, past Goshen, and then all of a sudden there's going to be no demand.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you know that question?
I don't.
He's also the president of the HBA, so.
Yeah.
There's two great realtors up there, and two great builders and land developers, so I figured I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, I can tell you we're not concerned at all. I think the population in Cincinnati is going to continue to grow, and it's not necessarily homegrown population growth. It's, immigration is a big part of what's going on in Cincinnati. Job growth creates employment. If I was in, the Rust Belt, which actually they were having a little bit of resurgence themselves, but the problem is there's just not enough housing, and we got to go out, or we're never going to get to the mass, to the amount of housing that's needed. And now, and the people that suffer, and I always use my kids as an example, although they're not a great example because they're doing pretty well, but for them to buy a house, I would have never thought that their first home buyer, my son just bought his first house in Seattle for $1.2 million. I'm like, that's insanity, and it's a piece of shit. And so, it has to move out even in Cincinnati to get that value for those young kids to be able to buy something, and it's not going to change anytime soon. I think there's a little dynamic change in the custom home builder and the production builder relationship. We're probably not going to follow them out there, really. I mean, some, but not a lot. But the problem is we're so expensive anymore that our buying group is very small, and it's a concern of mine moving forward. I'll be dead, but that's okay. But it is going to, and it's getting to a point where when you're doing very well and you still can't afford to build a custom home, man, that's scary to me. So, I think people are going to learn, unfortunately, that they don't need a production, they don't need a custom home. They need a nice, for lack of a better term, production home, and because that's what they can afford. And that's sad that the $800,000 house is what you can just afford. You can't build. I was equated to when I was young, very young. I remember Rudy Engler and those guys were building $350,000 houses, and I'm like, man, if I could just get there, if I could just get there. Now, if you call me and want to build $1.3 million, I'm like, can't do it. I'm like, what the hell happened? And it's happened real quick in the last 6 years, 7 years. So, but know, I think the population in Cincinnati is going to continue to grow. Dayton is even growing tremendously because their employment, they sat on their hands for 25 years, so.
So let's just kind of wrap it with what's your one tip that you want to leave with them today? Just one thing that you could say, if you could just do this.
I would say truly get to know your client and understand their budget, how they like to communicate, what their availability is. Are they really meant to build custom? Because to Mark's point, there's a lot of people that want to build, but their anxiety or whatever it is, their time and their schedule doesn't allow for that. So just really get to know your client, because the better you know your client, when we come to the table, that just helps everything run more smoothly.
Yeah, and I would make 2 points. Manage expectations and add value. That's, you know, pretty simple, but it's reality, and that's extremely important.
Mike?
I would say, I feel like I've said this like 3 times, but to build relationships with other people in the industry so that you can really educate yourself too, because you're going to learn more, and you can provide value to your client, because if you're building a relationship with other agents and or builders, you might find them an opportunity that wasn't on the market like we talked about before.
I'm gonna go with kind of a different route. Is like, since you guys are all real estate agents, is new construction gonna be a pillar of your business? I think that's, if it's gonna be a pillar of your business, invest the time, the effort into it to do it right. If it's just gonna be something that you might help 1 out of every 50 clients you do, you have plenty of people you can lean on to help you out to do that. I mean, who here's referred something out to somebody because they don't do a commercial property? It's okay to do that. You can bring them in. You don't have to be everything to everybody. So if it's going to be a pillar of your business and you want to actually focus on it, then lean in and learn. Sit with these folks before they take off and ask them a bunch of questions. I think from an agent standpoint is, you're not going to just represent a development because you want to represent a development. You're going to have to lean in on this kind of front. And I know I've been fortunate, by the way. I got to work with my dad for a long time. You know, I grew up around this business, but I had to put the effort in too to start learning and meeting people and earn the trust. So just know that there's 1,000 different ways in there. People want to help. So I'll just say that. It's like, if you want to make it part of your business, do something about it.
Well, you could have not have teed me up more perfectly. If you all are interested in building relationships, the HBA does offer a number of opportunities for you to engage. And I'm going to throw a lot at you, and this is all on our website, cincybuilders.com. We do have another Lunch and Learn coming up on June 24th, and we're going to be talking about what actually goes into the cost of building a home. And it's really from like once they have the lot to turning over the keys. And we've got a really great panel. Andrea's brother, Scott Lucky, is on the panel. We have a representative from D.R. Horton on the panel and a representative from Dries on the panel. And so it's really interesting to hear the different perspectives from the different type of builders and what they can control in terms of costs and what they can't. So if you're interested in that, it's a Lunch and Learn at the HBA office on June 24th. We also have a Lunch and Learn that you will probably really be interested in coming to on August the 20th, and it is going to be Meet the Homerama Builders. So Homerama is coming up this year. It is out in Goshen, and it's August 29th, thank you. August 29th through September 12th. And this Meet the Homerama Builders, of which Brad is one of them.
It's in Loveland.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really Loveland either.
says Loveland.
Hamilton Township. Hamilton Township. There's more information at cincybuilders.com. But you have a chance to meet all of the 8 builders that are participating in this show. That's going to take place as a Lunch and Learn on August 20th at Oasis Event Center. So check that out. And then if you haven't already marked your calendars, September 1st is Realtor Day at Homerama, and that is from 2 to 4. So mark your calendars for that. And then we will be having 2 more of these realtor-focused conversations. One in September that's representing buyers through the build process. We'll have a different panel of folks. And then on October 14th, we're going to have a fun one on building trends. So watch your email for more information on that. Go to our website regularly and see all of those. And those are all great opportunities to build relationships. So I would encourage you to continue to do that. So let's have a round of applause for our great panel. again to our sponsors for today, Plains Moving and Storage and Euler Hines, and I hope to see you at another HBA event soon.
And a quick thank you to Carmen and to Molly. They helped set everything up today. I'm just going to front, of course, Nick as well from Plains. So, last thing, if I can make one more plug on that. On these, this is like replacing HBA CE, so continuing education. We can all do that online, really easy, right? With a few clicks of a button, do CE. These are meant to actually be real continuing ed where we're actually learning. So if you guys can just continue to be present, spread the word, that would be huge for us because it's hard to reach real estate agents when you're so busy. So we're going to be doing these. So the more you get them to your brokerages, to your friends, to your colleagues, that would be really helpful for us because then we can have better content, more content, and it's worth these guys and gals' time. Okay? Thank you guys. All right. Thanks, Sean.